and it could barely make it uphill without overheating.
Now we're slowing it down again.
I think you're the first person to ever drive this on.
G'day and welcome to another episode of Aussie Ideas, man. I'm going to love this one. Aptera has broken down like I've been predicting for almost 2 years. And Aptera Owners Club is still selling the snake oil. They're passing on the lies from Steve Fambro and Chris Anthony. And, well, let's just get into it. Let's watch what they say. And I'm even going to show the comments I made on his site that nobody can see. You can follow what I showed and watch the video that he made, and you will see that they're not there because he has blocked me and he blocks many others. You can also see these comments on my latest video. As you can see, I'm not home. I'm at a retreat up in Mullaney, and this is another holiday. Been getting too many holidays, so this may take a while. I'll be off doing things all day. It's early morning, and they're not up. The rest of the family aren't up yet, so I'll post this when I get home. It's only 3 days from now. This is the pool room. This is, well, not swimming pool. There's a massive swimming pool out the back, but this is the pool table room. It's got a giant TV screen in front of me, and it's a very plush place. Well, so much for the introduction. Now let's see what he's got.
Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. So we need to talk about this NBC Nightly News segment. A few days ago, Aptera was on NBC Nightly News, national news, and presumably a pretty large audience. And there was a good segment about the Aptera. It was about almost 2 minutes long, and the vast majority was very positive, and I thought it was a good segment, but there was a portion of it that is problematic, so we need to talk about that. Well, here's the segment if you haven't seen it.
Automakers across the world are racing to produce a future free of fossil fuels, but the
I'm going to find the part that's really important.
We'll never have to plug this in. Our test model had some obvious flaws, and it could barely make it uphill without overheating.
Now we're slowing it down again.
I think you're the first person to ever drive this on a hill.
That's the big one. This Aptera that is over 6 months old, their Gamma model that was supposed to be close to production ready, but is far from it, has broken down on a slight incline due to overheating. I've always said this skin cooling system wouldn't work, and I've debunked a couple of their videos that try to explain it very poorly, and of late I've added a comment that has reiterated why I believe this skin cooling system doesn't work. This is the core issue of Aptera. It was in Aptera version 1, and it is now. You would have to be a mug to back something that has never been proven to work. And it's this radical skin cooling idea that is nonsense, complete nonsense, never proven to work. Aptera has nothing about it that's been proven, and I mean nothing. The solar. The first 3 alpha prototypes, they were advertising that it had solar that could take you up to 40 miles a day. And then the cretin from Aptera Owners Club, the guy that I'm making a video on now, he exposed Aptera and said, no, those 3 alphas only had fake solar. It didn't work. Then on Fully Charged Live, when this Gamma was revealed to the world, 2 days after it was revealed to another audience, Chris Anthony makes the statement, it's the first with working solar. And so there you go. Even he admitted that he'd been lying for all that time over the over the alphas. But anyway, this is massive. This breaking down on a hill. So what you just saw was Chris Anthony saying, and this is a 6-month-old vehicle, that this guy is the first guy, must be the first guy to ever drive it on a hill. And believe me, it's a slight incline. Must be the first guy to ever drive it on a hill. Chris Anthony, in my opinion, is a pathological liar. He thinks that he can say anything and nobody will hold him accountable for what he says. He thinks he can get away with murder in that respect. Well, once we get into comments, you'll also see that Steve Fambro, the other CEO, has made a statement that for 6 months and up to and including that drive, he has forgot to put the plumbing on the Gamma. Now, when I say plumbing, it's the hoses from the plumbing for the battery to the motors as well, just so that they can be in the cooling loop. A couple of hoses missing, one for each side. I think Gamma, not sure if it's 3-wheel drive or two, but if it's 2-wheel drive, one for each side. One extra for the rear wheel if it's 3-wheel drive. Leaving off hoses. These hoses could be put on in about maybe half an hour, and he's forgotten them for 6 months. Forgotten them for 6 months. What a load of rubbish. And who wants a CEO of a company to build you a machine when he can't remember to add the hoses, the cooling hoses? And how did it go 6 months on hills in Switzerland without detecting there were no hoses? I believe that to be a lie. This cretin here, he made a video a while back, according to my own memory. People can check it and find out if I'm right. I don't like to mislead people, but in my memory, I recall he made this video showing that the previous alphas had cooling hoses at the top of the motors while the electrics were at the bottom, and that they improved the car. Oh, silly trike, it's not a car. They improved the silly trike by putting all the hoses in the same area and then covering it with a shroud to make it more aerodynamic. And now he makes a video, and I think it'll come later, I think it's this one, where he points to the shroud and says that the hoses have been forgotten. I think there's too many liars involved in this whole debacle. Let's keep going.
Okay, so that was an extremely bad look on national TV, and I think everyone noticed that there was a lot of talk on our Discord channel about this. It appears that Gamma was going up a hill, and not a very big hill either, a pretty small hill, and it slowed down, and it seemed like it was thermally throttling and had a difficult time making it up the hill. And then they got a little quick blurb of Chris Anthony saying that he was the first one to drive it up a hill, which I think was probably taken out of context in the longer conversation, because they clip it, and it made it sound like Apteras have never been tested up a hill, which is obviously not true, because there's tons of videos of the alpha vehicles making it up the hill, and they've tested beta on at Chuckawalla Raceway in the desert in some pretty serious heat, doing full-on drag races and stuff. So you remember from this drag race video that Aptera put out, the difference is that
Okay, so he's making excuses. He's justifying, and he's appealing to the fact that they've done the work. And this is the biggest thing about Aptera. They haven't done the work. They've only said they have, and they're liars. Show me any video from Aptera Motors or any release of any sort that shows that they have done the work and provided the substance, the evidence. Okay, let's start with 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds for the alphas. Where's the evidence? How about 102 miles an hour for the alphas? Where's the evidence? How about 82 miles per hour for this gamma? Where's the evidence? How about the ranges for each of the battery sizes? In truth, it's something like 5 to 10 kilowatt hour batteries that they put in any of these fake prototypes. Where's the evidence of the ranges? They have not proven a thing. What they have said, and it's only what they have said, is that they've got computer fluid dynamics that calculate these things in the computer, nothing real world. And they've also said that the computer fluid dynamics are around 5% inaccurate. And that's another lie. These computer fluid dynamics are more like 50% inaccurate, but I'm just throwing an arbitrary number that's high. We'll go on.
The beta has a actual radiator in the front instead of using the skin cooling, the underbelly skin cooling that the Aptera is going to use in production. And so this uses a actual radiator, but the Noir, which is what they used in this race. So you see Noir right here. So you see Noir, Beta, and then you see the Audi, and the Noir has functional skin cooling. So that
this race is an absolute setup. It's rigged. Now, for a start, they think that this is a quarter-mile race, but it's not. It's an eighth of a mile, if that at all. It is so short, and the reason it's short is because after the eighth of a mile, the ice cars go flying past both of these Apteras. That's what they do. They also have their own people driving them, so the drivers of the ice cars are a bit light on the go pedal. By the way, the Noir is an alpha. It's just a colour. They built 3 that are hardly any different, but made colours to impress people. Made the colours different, that's all. Well, almost that's all.
but the Alpha vehicles have a very, very small battery. So, but this one has a functional skin cooling, so you can actually stress the powertrain system in the Noir. The Gamma,
it's not up a hill, it's flat here. And the other thing is, it's not long enough for the silly trike to get hot. Just count how many seconds it takes for this race to begin and end. And you will see that it doesn't matter how hot it is and how bad the cool. It could do it without cooling at all. It could do it right up until it breaks down.
when it didn't make it up the hill, there were a couple of things that I was thinking. One, there's an engineering flaw, and the skin cooling implementation in Gamma does not work, because clearly not being able to make it up that small hill in San Diego. And San Diego is hot this week, but it's not crazy hot. Yeah, it's probably in the 80s, and that's not extremely hot. So that would be very, very bad if the engineering problem, or there was a part that failed in the cooling system unexpectedly during the thing, and that would be a better explanation, because at this point the cooling system should be locked down, and it should be well tested and known that it can handle the thermal load that the Aptera will put on it. And if you want to know more about how the skin cooling system works, there's a video, and I'll link this in the description below, where one of the Aptera engineers, Daniel, who used to work there on the thermal system, explains how the thermal system works. But anyways, this was pretty concerning and kind of a bad look on.
It is a bad look. It's not kind of at all. This is a shocking look. This reveals what's going on and what has been going on for the whole 4 years that they've been in operation. They have got something that's not fit for purpose. They've got something that won't work. And they are collecting money for the time that they will disappear into the nether like they did the first time. They are taking money from people, knowing that this thing will never get into production. And I'm pretty sure they knew before they built their first alpha. It's an engineering flaw, and it's the skin cooling that doesn't work. It's absolutely poorly engineered. It, as far as I can see, can't work. The idea is ridiculous.
National TV. So we wanted to know what the story behind it was. Is it an engineering problem? Because at this point in development, that would not be good. And as it turns out, it is not an engineering problem. And Chris McCannon, who's doing a great job overall, but also he is fairly active on our Discord channel. He came by and he gave us some official statements and some unofficial clarifications. Okay, so here it goes. This is the official statement that Aptera put out. As you are aware, Gamma was a snapshot in time from 18 months ago. While Gamma is not a production vehicle, it is a monumental step in that direction. We are applying all the knowledge learned from Gamma phase of development into our upcoming Delta builds, which the team is excited to test and validate thanks to your support. In the meantime, Gamma is receiving select upgrades to show off more production capabilities. We are excited to show off those upgrades in the coming weeks. Okay, so this is kind of, the
Okay, let's have a look at this. Gamma was a snapshot in time from 18 months ago. Gamma was nothing 18 months ago. In fact, it was revealed less than 7 months ago, roughly. And that's an 11-month difference. Why has he decided to put 18 months ago? What was Gamma 18 months ago? I don't think it was anything. Now it says, well, Gamma is not a production vehicle. It was intended to be the closest thing to production. It was saying next one is Delta, and this thing here is nearest practicable a Delta. Now he's saying that we're applying all of the knowledge learned from the Gamma for the Delta. Well, they learned that the thing needs the hoses that the Alphas had, the plumbing, the 15 minutes aside effort of clipping hoses to each end.
official statements are always kind of vetted and they don't give us much detail, but what it is what they're saying is that they don't have all the systems on there. Okay, so we were like, we need a more technical statement, and Chris came back with a more official technical statement and some unofficial stuff. So remember, we haven't had access to it since it's been used for investor visits overseas for the last 6 months. So basically, remember, they really rushed out Gamma to make it to the fully charged event. I mean, they barely made it in time for the fully charged event. And it was there mainly to be a aesthetic shell to show what it looks like and the new shape of it. Because remember, they made it a little bit wider to give it more room on the inside.
When they were talking up the Gamma, they never said, look, this is just an aesthetic shell. They were saying this is as near as practicable to being the Delta. This is the one, and in fact, Bruce Nelson was saying when this Gamma comes out, it's going to prove all those unsubstantiated claims that all we have is their word that the computers tell them it'll do all this. Bruce Nelson was saying that, and so was everybody else, talking it up. Not one of them ever said, oh, this is just an aesthetic shell, and this might not go far.
And to show what the interior would look like, because the interior changed from alpha to gamma, and then of course the interior in delta is fairly different. Like the center console is very, very different in the delta than the gamma, but it was more of a cosmetic piece than an engineering piece, and they did not completely make all the powertrain parts in gamma. They had to ship it off to Italy right away, and so they haven't been able. They basically got the shell ready for fully charged and immediately shipped it over to Europe. All right.
If you know you haven't made all the powertrain parts, you wouldn't drive it. It's that simple.
So, if we go down further, we get a more technical. Okay, so the official engineering statement was Aptera vehicles have a cooling for motors and inverters that are incredibly capable. Gamma's cooling system has yet to be completed due to its jam-packed investor tour in Europe, but has never experienced an issue. Due to the hot summer days and extreme hills, it became clear that the cooling system must be completed before Gamma performs any additional media visits. So I think everyone
They need the weather to let them know that they have to put the hoses onto the motor. Unbelievable.
Aptera realized that this was an issue after the NBC visit, and I believe they changed this right away. And so Aptera was a shell for fully charged. They just barely made it in time to get it to the fully charged event. It was mainly there as a aesthetic piece to show what it looks like cosmetically.
This cretin is bending over backwards, selling the snake oil. That's all you're getting from him. And these technical reports are rubbish. If you can't see that, you're an ostrich with your head in the sand.
And because remember, they changed the body to be bigger and give more interior room, and they stretched it out a little bit so the trunk's a little bigger.
He's also repeating himself, and he's getting off the point. The point is not body size. It didn't stop going up that hill because it had a 1% or something increase in body size. It stopped because it broke down, it overheated. Body size is irrelevant.
And also they changed the interior. Now the interior changed from alpha
Interior is just as irrelevant, probably even more so.
to gamma, but then gamma to delta changes again, especially the console. The seats stay relatively the same, and much of the other dash interior stays relatively the same. But anyway, it was a cosmetic.
Yes, the dash interior does stay relatively the same. It's a fake dash, especially the screen. That is totally fake. The screen's the most important thing on the dash, and the screen is totally fake. And even they say that. They have yet to make the screen work.
Model to show what it looks like, and the powertrain was not fully completed, and as in the engineering statement, the cooling system was not completed, and they drove it around in Europe.
But they did say that this Gamma, after people started to realize that it wasn't up to scratch, they started to say, well, it's only about 80%, like what the Delta will be. It's only about 80%. Well, when you take the fact that they left the cooling hoses off, half the plumbing missing, there's some percentage drop. But when it's built out of a composite fiberglass and the production model is going to be a hardened type of toothpaste that is carbon based, then that's nothing like it, and that's the whole body there. So yeah, I can see why they said about 80%, and that's stretching it. And once again, reality says that this thing's about 50% up to scratch. What else is not there? Oh, that's right, the screen. Well, there you go. That's a large percentage drop because the screen doesn't work and never has. Um, Off the top of my head, oh yes, they claim the first working solar, but how far has it gone on solar? I'll just remind people what I caught them doing. They gave a couple of miles of test rides one day in St. Moritz. Didn't leave the property. They basically drove around a small pond out the front of St. Moritz. And after it being supposedly a 400-mile vehicle, and after not driving it more than 5 miles, that night they put it on a charger. Why charge something up that gets 40 miles in the sun? Or this one didn't have all the solar panels on it, so let's say it would supposed to get 15 miles in the sun. That's 3 times as far as they probably gave people joyrides in. It was also quite a bit of a hill there from the resort to the little pond out the front. It wasn't flat. And yet they had to put it on a charger. It was being charged first day.
When it was cold, and that wasn't a problem, and they didn't do any they weren't racing it or trying to stress the powertrain system in the Gamma. It was more a cosmetic piece to show what it looks like. But it became clear that they do need to finish it. And what was not finished, you can see here, the cooling system had not been hooked up to the motors yet. So it became so the cooling system was hooked up to the inverters. The inverters get very hot, and I think it was hooked up to the batteries too, but it was never hooked up to the motors because the motors don't have as much thermal load as the inverters. And maybe it wasn't hooked up to the batteries either because the batteries don't have that much thermal load in most.
Okay, the big excuse. This is, I'm pretty sure, a big lie. For a start, they had Gamma back for about a fortnight, back at Carlsbad. Not long prior to Gamma being back, they had made a video with some dweeb saying they had put, and I can't remember what it was called. I'm not an engineer myself. They had put something on the the beta that was to go on the production models and stopped it from having thermal throttling breakdowns and allowed it to do, what do they call it, launch mode. And this little item they'd perfected. Now, you would think that they would have bolted it on the Gamma as soon as it got back because it made it more drivable. You would think they would actually prepare the car with what they had before giving it to an NBC reporter.
This is the part that was never hooked up in the Gamma. They just didn't have time to do it. They just hooked up the motor so that it was drivable, but at low power.
Can you see the hose clips? I'll put them here. They're each of these are spring-loaded hose clips. It ain't hard to stick hoses.
And if you look here, this was a picture that we took at fully charged. Here's the lower control arm. It's covered, and you can't see if there's a coolant port in there, but presumably the coolant ports are not in here, and that was basically what became the problem. Okay.
There you go. He's presuming they weren't in there because you can't see under a shroud, a cover. And he'll justify anything. He's presuming there's no cooling hoses under that shroud. But he'd made a video saying that they had relocated them from higher up down there and put the shroud over them for aerodynamic purposes.
So they are fixing that. This is not a problem with the.
Yes, to stick the hoses on, as I said, 15 minutes aside, maybe an extra 15 minutes if it's a three-wheel drive. And they should be, by now, they should have been out and about and proving A, the 400-mile range, B, the 82 miles per hour top speed, C, the 4 seconds it's been extended because they've made less powerful motors than what they first advertised. They've detuned the motors, and you just have to suck it up if you're buying one. Horsepower and everything's lower. All of these things, they should have been out the very next day proving all these things because of this massive debacle, this event that caught them with their pants well and truly down around their ankles. I believe this is the death knell for Aptera. I'll have to go out and look for something else to practice on because I know how bad I am at presenting and I need a lot of practice. But I'm a motoring enthusiast and always have been. And I've always said that if everything was true about Aptera, I would buy one. No doubt about it. I love the idea of what they claim it can do. but I've always seen through the scam. And I have to say, like people that say I'm not a financial advisor, I have to say it's in my opinion a scam. And it's in my opinion that the very first one was a scam in the same manner. They never had, out of all their 17 prototypes in various stages of build, they never had one that worked. They never had anything that worked. And I have this in my mind that these two CEOs knew that nothing worked before they even started to build and just were intent on raising money and getting rich out of it. So, yes, for all those who are not a financial advisor and they're absolved from any responsibility, I am not a person who is qualified to detect scams. And so I openly say that it's my opinion only and I absolve myself from any responsibility.
Design or the engineering, it is a problem with they didn't have the time to hook it up before they shipped it off to Europe. And they just got it back from Europe and they thought that everything was going to be okay for just as long as you're not like doing massive like drag races or trying to
Massive drag races like the 1/8 of a mile setup that they had at Chuckwalla. And they weren't aware that this was going to happen, so they're not responsible. I don't think so. The cretin is just making too many excuses for a botched job, and it's always been a botched machine right from the get-go. Have they, in the, I think, 3 or 4 days since this happened, have they gone out and proven that it was just a couple of pieces of rubber hoses that were the cause and that there is nothing wrong with the skin cooling? They have not. It's their death knell.
get maximum power from the motors. But it became clear that I think probably what happened is NBC told them that they're ready, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it should be fine." And when are we going to get this opportunity again? And they did it, and it turned out it was not fine. So that was probably not a great decision in retrospect. But you know, everything is 2020 hindsight. But I think the important issue, at least for me, is that it's not an engineering issue. It was just a time issue. All right, so
He's selling the snake oil, and the guy has no proven ethics for anybody to even start to believe him.
I hope that clears things up for you guys. And I'm pretty sure that they're gonna put out a better statement in the next couple of days or next couple of weeks. And after they get the cooling system hooked up in the Gamma, I hope and I think they will put out some videos of it going up hills in the desert. I know nearby San Diego there are some large mountains like Big Bear and the San Gorgonio Mountains or the Angeles Mountains. So they could drive it up. It's very hot in the summer here around the Inland Empire. It's about 105 degrees, and it gets up to 110, 112 degrees. So if they could bring that up here and show it driving up a mountain in that kind of heat, I think that will put a lot of fears to rest. Also, they could drive it up some hills towards Joshua Tree, and that would just put these thermal throttling issues to rest. And I hope that they do that. And I think that they will be doing that at some point in the future, hopefully in the near future. All right, thanks for watching.
Okay, so all that's left now is for me to talk over the comments that I made, which is a large part of the video it's going to be because there were plenty of comments, and then say, well, that's all from me. Bye for now, until such time as I don't have any more Aptera videos to assess. I do this Aptera, but my mind boggles at how thick, how inconvincible the Aptera fanboys are. in some way, I just say they deserve to lose every cent that they put in it because they have proven to be, as thick as thieves, really gullible fools.